I'm getting ahead of myself. What we really want to do in this video is talk about how to get a cohesive body of artwork so that we can begin to show our art in art venues and galleries. I start out by brainstorming and figuring out what kind of concepts, thoughts, emotions seem to recur a lot, so that my art can tell my own personal story and have my own voice. Just to be clear, this video isn't about the process of submitting the art, it's about creating the art, creating and curating your own body of work. You might see a call for art that really resonates with you, and then you can create artwork for that show. However, for the most part, for me, what works best is to simply create the art that I feel like making, and then I'll look for opportunities to show that work. Once I have come up with some concepts and ideas that resonate with me, I go to my sketchbook and I look through old work and I create some new ones. I'll make sketches of things that symbolize the concepts and the feelings and the moods and the emotions that I want to convey and the story that I want to tell. And I just look for things that will symbolize that in my sketchbook. And what I'm noticing also is that I like circles a lot. So when I was getting ready to do this next body of work, I went into my sketchbook and I did a lot of circles. I did color studies and concentric circles and changing the composition of the circles. I did mandalas, and I tried to figure out really what is this recurring theme? What does it mean? And I started playing around and interleaving some other objects, plants, vines, and things inside of the concentric circles. After that, I went on to try and make some 12 by 12 preliminary pieces to see what I thought. So I used some old paper that the sizing is a little bit iffy on, and I just played. And this came out and reminded me a lot of peace signs. And of course, peace sign isn't correct. I recently found out that the peace sign is based on the feet of a peace dove, the little 3 toes. But that's kind of what happens when you do some of these preliminary pieces. Other things come up and you realize you want to incorporate those things in the final artwork. So, that's why it's important to do those preliminary pieces and not judge them. Just trust the process and let yourself do a creative dump. It might surprise you, but I really love the process of stretching my watercolor paper on a board. It's a little extra step, but it makes it so much more pleasurable to paint on. It stays nice and tight, and it also helps me kind of think about what I'm going to do with that paper. In this case, I decided to make one peace sign out of some concentric circles, and I wanted to embed and entwine some flowers in that peace sign, coming in and out of the layers of it. And I didn't have a title for this piece in mind. I just kind of had a visual concept, and I wasn't entirely sure that this was going to be a final piece of art. I never do that to myself. I never say this has to be a final piece of art. And it just allows me a little freedom, takes a little bit of the pressure off, because watercolor paper is pretty cheap compared to canvases. So you can goof, and I know that I can, cut up a failed piece of art and do some other things with it. So I guess I encourage you not to get too hung up on it once you start painting the quote-unquote final pieces. Okay, now it's time to add some color to this, and I want to share something with you that I've been working on over the past year, and it's working with really strong staining colors. And I learned this from another artist on YouTube. His name is Scott Teplin, and he does ink and watercolor as well, and he makes very, very fine, even washes. And he starts out, for instance, phthalo blue is very staining and it can be really difficult to work with. But if your first layers are almost all water and just a little bit of pigment, and then you gradually add more pigment and more layers, you're going to find that the watercolor wash is very, very fine and even. I should tell you that part of the technique, of course, is also to keep a wet edge as you're painting, as you're going along, so that it's kind of like have you ever painted a wall in your house and you paint in such a way that you don't let the paint dry, because sometimes some colors are not that opaque. So if you keep that wet edge, then it just keeps flowing. And that's even what I'm doing here, although I'm not making it a very pale wash at first, because quinacridone or permanent rose is pretty easy to work with in comparison to phthalo blue or phthalo green. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about how to find these calls for art and how to introduce yourself to the art community and how to get comfortable with it. First of all, what you should do is look in your area and see if there are any nonprofit organizations that help to promote the arts. The thing is when you're just emerging and you haven't shown before or haven't shown very much, you don't want to try to go into a top and high, I call them hoity-toity, the ones that make you feel a little bit like they're doing you a favor by letting you come into their gallery. Maybe someday you want to be in that kind of a gallery, but at first, don't go there. You want to find a place that has mentorship. For instance, where I sort of got started here in my area was at Urban Art House, and they have open studios, so you can go in and bring projects that you're working on and hang out with other artists. Some of them are hobbyists. Some of them are really accomplished artists that show all over the country and even internationally. One of our artists even has a permanent installation at the Kansas City Museum. So don't let the fact that it's a nonprofit make you think that they're not serious about art, because they very well may be very serious about art. I mean, I can't speak for all the nonprofit organizations all around the country, but this one is. And I feel like I'm just really lucky, because if you become a member, they even have a lot of affiliations with other organizations that help promote the arts. For instance, when I was first getting a business set up, I have like 90 minutes that I can speak to a lawyer for free through this collaboration with the Urban Art House. That's huge. That will help you so much when you're trying to get started, and it's overwhelming. Unless you have a business degree or you've run a business before, it can be very overwhelming, because there's definitely a business aspect to this as well. They also have classes called Artworks. It's a program to help emerging artists and existing artists learn how to market, how to do every kind of aspect. It's an introduction. It's not like they're not going to tell you, they're not going to sit down with you and spoon feed it to you for your specific business. But they're classes that point you to where the tools are and help you learn where to go to get the information that you need for your specific art business, right? And while you're taking these classes, you're meeting other artists in your community. And the ones who really mentor other artists are just worth their weight in gold. And I met 4 people who just almost instantly took me under their wings and brought me into the community. And we bounce a lot of ideas off of each other. We come up with more options and more things to lift each other up, both in our practice and just our spirits. And it's just such a positive, uplifting place to go. They share resources with you. They introduce you to other curators. The curator at the Inner Urban Art House, Wolf Brock, has this program called Curators Connect. He sets it up so that we meet about once a month with other curators and art directors at other galleries. And so you get to know what galleries show the kind of art you like to create. And you get to know what kind of, which curators you're most comfortable talking to and getting advice from and all of that stuff. And it's just such a wealth of information. Okay, so here I am at the open studio at Inner Urban Art House. And I apologize for the angle, but I had to record it with my phone. It was the first time I ever recorded myself working at the art house, and I was trying not to draw too much attention to myself, although it was pretty impossible in the end. But I wanted to show you the kind of stuff that I take with me. I take a pretty minimalist amount with me. I take my board and I take a small travel watercolor palette and some watercolor travel brushes, stuff like that. And so I'm kind of trying to just document the process of this particular thing. Oh, what's happening here? There's more than circles. That's true. There are more than circles
it is
in this one.
Yes.
I'm not always super productive at Open Studio. Most of the time, I try to take stuff that's fairly far on in the process, because trying to socialize, which is very important in the art community. So, I mean, you have to get to know people, and it's definitely very much a community thing. So when I go to Open Studio, if I'm going to actually try and be productive, I have to take stuff that I don't have to figure out what I'm doing. I already know what I'm doing. But fortunately, in this particular day, everyone kind of had their head down and everyone was really working. So I was able to get quite a bit done on this painting, even though I was even at the Open Studio. But it just, you never know, right? You just never know how it's gonna wash out. While I was there, more and more, this got more and more 70s vibe and bright colors, and I really loved the direction it was going. And I'll tell you this is for the 12 by 12 member show, but I made it bigger because I wanted the option to crop it without the circle being in the middle, and I wanted a little room to play. So that's something you might consider as well when you're creating art. This video is just about to wrap up. I sure hope that what we talked about today was helpful to you if you're trying to figure out how to get into galleries in your local community. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll respond. And also, you guys, give me a like and a subscribe if you want to see more content like this, because I'm thinking about doing more content about getting in a local art community. It seems kind of like a niche nobody's really talking about, and I'm right in the thick of it. So let me know what you think. And in the meantime, be very creative, have fun, enjoy your life, and I hope you're really well and everything's going well for you. And we'll see you in the next video, okay? Bye now. Smooches.